Chair and Mayor, we have both the City Council and the Board of Economic Development. To Chris Chappelle and Janet Kincaid. Chair Silva, excused or excused?
Excused.
In the record, we have a quorum.
Okay, thank you.
Move to approve.
Second. Take a roll call vote since we have at least one person online. So, Madam Clerk, if you would take the roll for the motion that's on the floor to approve the agenda.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yeah.
Okay. Sabrina Collins? Yes. Councilman
Yes.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Holmes?
Yes.
Mayor
Yes.
Carries. And Board of Economic Development, are changes to the agenda? We'll need So I'm just making note that Councilmember Best has joined the meeting. So for roll call, the approval of the agenda for Board of Economic Development, Board Member Moses? Yes. Board Member House?
Yes.
Board Member Christopher?
Yes.
Vice Chair Koppenberg?
Yes.
Chair Silva?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, so we have the agenda. The next item on the agenda is audience participation. Anyone in the audience is welcome to address the council. 3 minutes if you're representing yourself, 5 minutes if you're representing the group. And it can be regarding something that's on the agenda. Audience participation is now open. I gotta remember to turn this mic on all the time because it goes off.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I thought I would share this news now because I'm not able to stay later because I have a child in crisis trying to figure out her college and get all her senior stuff done. So I can't be here tonight, but I was at the Board of
Will you
Fisheries.
state your name for the record?
Stephanie Nevers from
Thank
Mat-Su Borough Assembly. I was at the Board of Fisheries meeting earlier this week and got some good news today that they approved one of the major proposals, Proposal 133 for the Mat-Su that has to do with a conservation corridor and extending the use of that to get more fish to the Mat-Su. So there's a couple other proposals. I haven't heard where those have gone, but that was super good news for Mat-Su because we really struggled to get fish into our streams being at the end of the line. So just want to share that. And the borough is having a strategic planning session this Saturday. So if there's economic development strategy that you would like us to consider as a priority, I would be happy to hear that. We're meeting Saturday at the Borough Assembly chambers, but you can always reach me by phone or email. I think it is 10, but I would have to confirm
Okay,
that.
all right, okay. Thank you.
Through 25 East Falwood, and you hear we go information people do as well.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to address the council and the board? Okay, seeing no one come forward, I will close audience participation. The next item on our agenda is new business. Can I have from the council a motion to go into the committee of the whole?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the council go into the committee of the whole. Discussion, amendments, questions on the motion? Okay, Madam Clerk, would you read the roll, please, for the vote?
Councilmember Velasquez? Councilmember Sabrina Carr?
Yes.
Councilmember Carrington?
Yes.
Councilmember Best? Councilmember Burbright?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Combs?
Yes.
Mayor Edna DeVries?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay.
All right, the item on the agenda is to go into Committee of the Whole. Do we have a motion from the Board of Economic Development?
So moved.
Do we have a second? Second. Any discussion? All right, let's do a roll call vote.
Board Member Moses?
Yes.
Board Member Hunt?
Yes.
Board Member Christopher?
Yes.
Vice Chair Koppenberg? Yes. Chair Silva?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, we are now in committee of the whole, and do you have a 2019 board recap that you can present to us?
To talk about, yes.
Let's hear.
To invite Brad to join me if he would like to. If that's a position for anybody in the Board of Economic Development or the City Council at the table there. So I made some notes. It's an idea here. We didn't send any formal arguments to the council idea to have a discussion. So I'm going to start with 2019 meetings, including conversation regarding the itinerary discussion and feedback. So you're excused. Feedback. Information to City Council. So, any solutions, but we did spend quite a bit of time and provided feedback that was included in that. And you think just join the discussion. Is reviewing and updating the strategic plan. So, to update and review the strategic plan annually, to submit it to you guys. To also can consider review actions of it. So 22 meetings a year talking about the strategic plan. We have the strategic plan with us today for you because we need the minutes from January 2020 meeting because there are some changes incorporated there.
Okay.
Well, then send that to City Council for review, and at that meeting, myself and Lord will attend the City Council meeting to talk about it.
Okay.
Two changes that I was just going to point out today. Is to discuss the possibility of Friday fling for the market area as well as use stage.
Okay.
So discussion. D, which is to study any recommendations regarding new and commercial, with a little bit more when we get into 2020 today.
We talked about in 15 goals, I believe it was 15 recommendations. And 2 years past, they've been updated. That seemed like they were good. With me to if I can say this properly, because I tweeted it up here, hang on a second. The city does to constantly acknowledge and consider unique connectivity process with future developments. It's that many communities don't have. Always never forget that. And to integrate that, but in you know, how cool this and this, you just don't find I mean, things, but this connectivity thing is directly to economic development in this town. And thesis on it or something. I do newspaper columns on it, but agreed with one person to include passing on to the city council.
Okay. Any further, anything from the council? Okay, go ahead and proceed,
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Oh, well, yeah, didn't have notes, so that was probably really as well as you could. So, was there anything else over here, Lori? No. So you from I've seen you at multiple meetings downtown. I know they presented to council a few times. We had 3 meetings involving Stantec in this past year. So Stantec has definitely taken up quite a bit of time for the work of economic development, but it is valuable time. We provide input, listen to the presentations. The final product isn't done. We're looking for seeing the final and hopefully able to incorporate some of those changes. So we talked about the strategic plan this year, pull some ideas from the presentations from Stantec, the goals that we have. So has been important this past year. Okay. Communities, you know, everybody's talking about gateway communities. The government is talking about gateway communities. Lee Hodge came and did a presentation to the Board of Economic Development, and I talked to you about one of our meetings. It was the 4th annual state in Dalhousie. It was in August. I attended that. Brett attended that. People from all over the state. I mean, it was amazing. It was really informative. It was a fantastic conference, and really, it was gateway communities, which we are a gateway community. So that's for me personally, and really focusing on the impact of the outdoors on cities. So, anything to add on gateway communities? Okay. Conversation at the city council meeting last year. It came up and the council said, you guys should talk about this. Oh, we talked about this. Research on the site we would wait for official to discussion and a meeting from the council if you would like this board to investigate further. discussion, but it was
Thoroughly discussed.
It was not laid back.
to do that. So
Councilwoman Sabrina Combs?
about it. For some I'm kind of just wondering where and what further you would need.
the entire meeting, let's bring it to coming to us to say we have this discussion. Community. Go ahead.
Nate wants to try it.
He was there.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So the board did have the discussion, and part was, the economic benefit. But really, when you go back to the whole topic of marijuana, it's more than just the economics. There's the philosophical piece about it, and the voters, when they voted, weren't, in my mind, voting on the economic impact. So to have the Board of Economic Development talk about marijuana, it should be about that, just the economic piece, and not the good, the bad, the ugly of marijuana, but what is the economic value of doing that? And then it's up to the council to have the discussion on the philosophy of whether or not marijuana is something that the city should have. And part of that input is it's gonna be because right now we're getting nothing from marijuana. There's no revenue coming from marijuana, so it's like the remote sales tax. It's on one side, there's a benefit, but there's no philosophical discussion about sales tax because we've had taxes for hundreds of years, and that's just it's a way of life. Whereas marijuana being legal is new, so the marijuana and its use need to be decided at this level and discussed at this level because it's the board that we have is an appointed board for economic development, and it's not the moral compass of the city, and that's kind of what happened with that discussion. It became less and less about economics and more about just marijuana in Palmer, which I think it derailed the whole discussion in my mind. So that's what happened.
Yeah, but to me, I don't think you can just keep it to the economic because you're looking maybe at collecting sales tax if there is sales, but also what about how does it affect socially the whole community? And that is an economic consideration you have to take also. You can't just take, okay, well, we get sales tax. I remember, the report that former chief of police, when he went to Denver and came back and told us exactly what it was going to cost regarding additional patrol and additional, in the police department. So I don't think when you tell them to look at the economic development point of it, that you can just simmer in on sales tax. That's much broader than that. And
I agree.
And when you philosophical thing, but just look at what sales tax revenue there may or may not be, because there is all of this other stuff regarding how it's going to affect businesses and Janet, of course, I'm sure told the personal story that she had regarding Denver, regarding when she went shopping there, about how it was affecting the adjoining businesses in that one mall area. And so, to me, it's just not sales tax, the economic issue.
No, and I meant to say The people, the group of marijuana in Palmer is what it turned into, not, you know, the revenues, you have, that's the economic piece, but we, about all the other pieces that go with it, that's where it got derailed, so it's,
Okay, yeah.
if the council wants the Board of Economic Development to look at the cost and benefits, then that would be, give that point of direction as opposed to is Palmer ready for marijuana, because that's for this table to really have that discussion.
Right.
One comment. Pay attention to what the voters also stated, because if you don't elect officials, and you do not listen to what the voters said, and they voted against it, then you step back and to the ballot and the voters make that decision, or the voters have asked you to do as representatives here, why that conversation basically stopped. The voters said no, and who as a board of development that's simply appointed and elected to take that to another level. So until to go to the voters or change it, to be asking the board to do things that aren't in that area yet. So it's the city council's responsibility to either make what the voters ask you to do, or take them to go against the voters and say we're going to do it anyway.
Yes, Councilwoman.
So-
And I'll make sure, since you've already spoken on
It
something.
has been several years since the voters had that say, and I don't think that asking the Board of Economic Development to come back to us with some economics on marijuana is asking you to do anything against what the voters have voted for. It is just getting us economic information, of which there is a lot more now than there was in 2015. So people's feelings about that may have vastly changed since then. It's just some information so that we can have a little bit more of an idea of what it could be economically to the city of Palmer. And I, for one, would like to see that information.
Oh, yeah. Sure. So, information already. The staff's information, just the research that was done on staff side. It was not 6 months.
Okay, great.
So the reason is defined, yeah. We do have information on opinions of each individual person, but that could simply easily be conveyed, yeah.
It's just estimate. Basically, I think we estimated the entire marijuana market at about $18 million in the right now, of which, you know, who's to say what portion of switches to Palmer? There's different revenue sources associated with the different elements of the marijuana. Dispensary is a state tax that's redistributed. The sales tax are applicable to dispensaries. When we talk with the Economic Development Board, mainly the emphasis was on the dispensaries and not the manufacturing. Didn't feel like there was adequate space for the manufacturing of it, and so the focus was on dispensaries, and really basically what it came down to, your top, we kind of estimated the market at $1 million to $1.5 million worth of additional sales tax revenue to the city, which is 30 to 50,000 worth of sales tax. As far as the cost, that's going to be on policymakers, decision makers, on, you know, what type of staff is added to necessary to accommodate that industry.
Well, see, I think then you're missing the whole point. If you were looking on the economic development, you have to look at not only the revenue, but the expenses. And if you're not doing that, then you are not presenting to us a very objective picture, I think.
Madam Mayor,
Yes. Deputy Mayor.
I know that there's new information available all the time. However, one of the things that I think surprised the great many people was when Chief Caroline at the time went to Colorado, a tremendous amount of information that a lot of complexities that, you know, it's not real simple. There are complexities that we just hadn't even thought about. So if we're going to review it or look at it again, I'd like to see both, you know, what changed, you know, some of those complexities, what a comparable place to Palmer found that they decided to go ahead and have dispensaries, for example, because you know, Mr. Hansen's correct. We've only looked really at dispensaries. We did get some direction from the voters, and that's what we did. So it can be looked at again at the offices of revenue, you know, for sure. There's no these days. It's not looking for more, you know, at any level. So, but I would not discount everything that I know he brought back and said, you know, didn't think about we're going to have to do this, we're going to have to do this, we're going to have to do this, you know. So if we're going to look at it again, I would certainly strongly suggest that we look at the facts from then and now. Thank you.
Mayor. I absolutely agree, and I don't have to go all the way to Colorado to find that information anymore. I can look right here in the Matanuska Valley and in Anchorage, and that's much more reasonable an idea of the impacts, the expenditures, and the revenues. And I think it's worth it. Like you said, all of us are looking for sources of revenue, so I think it'd be worth it.
Planning session coming up, whenever that's March or April. See the other differences.
Yes?
Yeah, I said, yeah.
It stays on the time is broken, so I press the button in order to be able, because I'm used to just talking. So
questions as well about looking at the economic impact of this, you know, in terms of revenue as well as, you know, what would the cost be? And I agree we should have some more local numbers that we can get, really, and so we don't have to create a wheel here. And I think it just would be really helpful for us to look at, and that way at some point if we go in front of the voters or, you know, we just have a full picture. So thank you.
Councilman Best, you have some comment?
Madam Mayor. You know, this is one of those that went before the voters, just like Ms. Lori had stated there. The voters made the choice, and it's council's place to continue to implement that until the voters have spoken again, whether it's by initiative or clamoring for us to put something on the ballot. I think the totality of the impact to the community needs to be looked at, and this is something that we can have staff bring up the economic aspect of it. I also understand the Board of Economic Development's reluctance to basically discuss a policy issue versus the sheer economics of things prior to getting specific requests from council to look into particular things. But for us to have data as individuals, that's one thing. For us to do our own homework on things and to do stuff like that, you know, the borough has data on some of the impacts of the economic aspect of things. Brad's been able to present some of that stuff to us, so we have the numbers of the dollars aspect of it, but I think it's up to council for us to have the philosophical questions of what it would be to our community, and if we were to make anything, I believe it should go to the voters first, since they have already spoken on that.
So any further discussion from anybody? Anybody that hasn't spoken? Yeah? Let's go ahead and recognize you.
Is that right? You know, this topic is, it's a flashpoint topic. I mean, it's like a gun range, or probably back in the 20s, like prohibition or something. It's one of those topics that has so much emotion caught up in it that it seems to like divide people immediately. And I think that Palmer has something that, again, listen to me, that other communities don't have, and that is an ability to communicate across those rigid lines and a vision. Therefore, talking about this is practically, it's a preventative, no, preventative is not the right word. It's a logical discussion to have regardless of where it fits on the voters' timeline. It doesn't mean you're going to go forward with it, but having those discussions and having facts is so important. And I've always admired Palmer for doing that. And, you know, I don't think the fact that anyone's researching the good or bad aspects of the monetary associations of marijuana is going to, it doesn't have to become political if we are careful with it. Between the staff reports and probably other reports that are done in the state for other small communities, I think there'll be a wealth of information, and I think you'll be you'll be far better prepared for any potential efforts that come. I just really encourage you guys to get the information, and I, for one, am happy to learn more about this. I think the more information, the better, frankly.
All right. Any other comments from anyone else? Okay, you want to proceed
Yes.
then?
Yeah, so we only have
Yeah,
about
we have
10 more minutes.
Yes, right.
So I'm gonna kind of run through these so that we have some more time to talk together, both boards, or the council and the board. Let's see. For 2020, we have 8 regular meetings and 2 joint meetings. So that is the agenda, or that is what's on the plan for the agenda for 2020. 2020 word projects and goals. So we updated our meeting organization for the Board of Economic Development at our January meeting after elections, et cetera. So we have eliminated that work plan document, which we had found to be ineffective. And so going forward, we are going to insert the goals that used to go on a work plan, but they're actually going to go on the agenda as a new business item, and they're going to stay on the agenda until the board feels that we have completed the discussion on that particular item. And I have a list of items that we're going to talk about in 2020. Annexation, which relates back to the strategic plan, goal 1, 2, 8, 9, 12, and 14. We're going to talk about the central business district and highway commercial, which I know you guys don't know a lot about yet, but or some of you may, but we recently had a joint meeting with planning and zoning and talked about the central business district. Basically, it will be, the idea is it's an overlay district. Currently, the central business district was created for parking. You guys remember that? That was to relax the parking rules.
Right.
Highway commercial, it's to kind of funnel those larger businesses out, not in downtown Palmer, but out along the highway. So we'll be back, to talk to you more about our discussions on that. That will be on the agenda. interrupt me anytime, okay, to help me. I can always use help, and anybody else. Tourism, local events, going back to talking about being a gateway community. So there's nothing specific. It relates back to goal 3, 4, 6, 11, and 12. What can we do at the City of Palmer in regards to tourism and local events to support them, make them better, continuity, et cetera. Railroad tracks, I know that's always a subject. I wish we could have talked about it here with you guys today, but we don't have time. We're going to put the railroad tracks on the agenda to talk about the use of the land. If it's not to take it away, of course, but is there a more current effective use of the land now? Like a stage, parking area, permanent farmers market, et cetera, things like that. So going on the agenda to talk about it. That's it. Annexation, Central Business District, tourism, railroad tracks.
Okay.
Did I miss anything? Anybody?
She jumped into 2020 board projects and goals, so in case anybody has a question about where we are, okay?
The corridor gateway, what did you call that again?
Highway commercial. Okay. The districts, so commercial.
Yeah, that's, just want to make sure that's a big one.
Yes.
And council person Fuller really pushed that when he was sitting on our board as a, he was, it's a really valid concern.
Okay. Alrighty. Does anybody else, any council person has 2020 boards and objectives they want to, okay? Other matters related to the Board of Economic Development?
Yes.
Did you have some?
Yes. Of course I do.
Okay. Well, that's what we have here, is to get your input.
We're looking for some direction. Council's looking to us for some direction. So we're looking for some direction from the council on the program.
So, yeah, I think there were a couple of points that we ran into when we were, trying to decide on a couple of grants, a couple of weeks ago. And, so I don't know what it is, does the council have some specifics, Councilwoman Sabrina Combs?
Thank you. The community grant program wasn't consistent. I'm pulling it up now so I can be more specific. They just didn't all seem to follow the same topics. Of course, it's freezing.
I think the one thing was, we'll talk about events, and then another section it would talk about programs and that. And
right. It was the stipulations to each different category which a grant could be applied. Honestly, kind of look at it and make sure that it's consistent, that when people or something, we're within code to grant it.
Right.
But since it originated with an we want to make sure that it touches your guys' committee as well and make sure that you guys are on the same page.
There was one section in there regarding 501(c)(3)s could only get a grant like for 1 year, and we weren't quite sure what some of the background was regarding that, and of course we found that we'd already violated that, and so so there was just, there was a question regarding, of course, the council, the ability to change like the grant application amount and things like that, but how much more leeway did we have?
And sorry, I just missed one section, and that was specifically the board can review this grant policy at least every 2 years and form recommendations or updates to the city council, and I don't believe that's been done. So, in the code, making sure that that is something that happens. Thank you. Sorry.
Oh, you were gonna bring up, okay, all right. So is that enough direction for you, or?
Yeah. I guess other question at this point that I would have is, does the council feel that aligns with, that the board should be reviewing that every 2 years?
No, I guess we're up to you and what you want to bring back. If it's something that you still feel that it's in your, something you do want to discuss, and, you know, because I think all of the monies that we have given out from the council over the last few years seems to have been on the revenue side of, you know, increasing businesses in Palmer, so.
Yeah.
So. Yes, Councilman Best?
Inside the community. The city is to we do to see the um, the
Councilwoman Valerius, do you have some comments? I know it would take someone some time, but it might be worthwhile to get from the clerk a copy of the actual minutes for that whole discussion, because
Actually going to recommend if there was could hear the city attorney making as far as reads and his interpretation of the code. Obviously, it would take place in the city, and so that maybe don't take place in the evening. The code was written when it was written. People, which I personally, it's just one of those things that it just to have them look at, see if maybe it could be tied up the way it is, and we work with it how it is. Okay, so I think listening to the minutes or reading those minutes would be helpful. Yeah, I think because
yeah, you're bring it to us or anything?
Just to my word, if you wouldn't mind.
Go ahead.
Second, and minute meeting in which I'm going to have to go out of state for to reschedule for the folks on board. Cancel. Yes. Yes. Pete? Yeah. All right, thank you.
Okay. The next item is city council direction to the board.
Are we extending?
Pardon?
Are we out of the committee now?
Well, no, that's that item right there, D.
Okay,
Okay?
we did that one. That's right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Jumping down on that one.
You're already composing the minutes.
Mayor, may I make another comment just under other matters?
Sure.
Economic development meeting, and I have all the details in front of me, but one of my concerns, and this is coming from we're always looking for businesses to come to our town and invest in our town. I discussed the fact of what happened of adding equipment and memberships to the room over here and how concerned about that from a business perspective. We have multiple gyms in this town. We have people invested hundreds of thousands of dollars to make their space available. It's looking for a membership a month. And I'm not sure what we're looking for, but just not official to small businesses when the city is now competing for that same membership. To go to the city, they have access to equipment, and other things. And with me, and we're on the same page, but I believe it required city approval or city council approval to do that. So from here on out, that I think the city should be competing with private business. That's how we will lose. People want to come to our town if they're going to be investing here, not have to compete with the city for the same amenities. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I'm sorry, my light went off again. With further direction from either the council or the board?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Councilman Carrington.
I think they filled their plate really well.
Okay. So, from the council to go on to committee on the whole.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we come out of committee of the whole by the council. Amendments, questions, comments on the motion? Okay, Madam Clerk, if you take the roll then on the question regarding coming out of the committee of the whole by the council.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Valerius. Councilmember Sabrina Cox.
Yes.
Councilmember Steve Carrington.
Yes.
Councilmember Richard Best. Councilmember Julie Burberry.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Linda Combs.
Yes.
Mayor Edna DeVries.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Motion from the Board of Economic Development to exit Committee of the Whole.
So moved.
Do we have a second? Second. Roll, please.
Board Member Ronald Moses.
Yes.
Board Member Barbara Hunt.
Yes.
Board Member Peter Christopher. Yes. Vice Chair Lori Koppenbach.
Yes.
Chair Debbie Silver.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Madam Clerk, heard of items placed on the table?
We do not have any tonight, Mayor.
Okay. The next item is council and commission member comments. Does anybody want to make additional comments, either from the commission or from the council? Okay. Deputy Mayor Combs?
Thank you very much for being here this evening, and tremendously appreciated the work. I know that you all work very hard at this. A lot of people, I think, in the community understand, but without it would be an even more difficult job to be sitting on the city council. So thank you very much for your willingness to serve the community in such a positive way.
I think all of the council will echo that. Thank you all very, very much. And so, any other comments? Okay, with that,